Don't get depressive on me, kid, Salus said to Talion, as Talion did have a very disturbed look on his face, staring down at the seals burnt into the table, the symbols deciding his magical fate, looking rather upset. Look, you can still learn magic. It's just not going to be very useful for you in combat. I'm sure it can have its uses. Maybe you store a few handy spells on paper to do little things here or there, or create some objects imbued with magical spells that you can use. But for the most part, you're going to have to rely on your natural demonic abilities. Magic just isn't going to be much use to you in combat. It doesn't mean you still can't practice and become quite a fine seals mage. So don't get depressed on me. It just means that fighting isn't going to be your magical forte. There are a great many things that seals experts excel at. Most magics, when you get right down to it, from demons, tend to focus around combat. In fact, there are very few that are useful outside of it. Seals experts are one of the only type of demonic mages that are capable of doing a great number of things that don't have anything to do with fighting. In fact, it's seal experts that work for the ruling families and organizations within the demon realm. I have spoken of the demon realm having controlled barriers in which the passage of time is regulated by magic, so that it flows at the same rate as the rest of the realms that exist. That way, the demon realm doesn't get out of date with the other realms and can communicate more effectively. Well, that is actually done by seals experts. They can use their seal magic to produce the barrier and control the flow of time within it. Countless magical things, teleportation, inter-realm travel, magical imprisonment, and many other things are all done by seals mages. Effectively, they're one of the most practical and useful in basically any other situation. It's only in combat that seals mages find their weakness. So, can you handle that? Salus said, looking to Talion. You still have plenty of things working for you. No, Talion replied, staring down at the symbols still burnt into the table. What do you mean, no? Okay, kid, explain. I'm not going to ignore magic. I want to learn. I want to be a mage. Well, sure, you can be a mage. Just not a combat mage. We have to focus on other things, Talion. We can't pour our attention into something that's not going to make you strong enough to fight off what's coming. No, I want to be a mage. I want to be able to use magic in combat. I just explained why you can't do that. Well, so what? I have to carry around some papers. Or some objects or something like that. I can still do it. Kid, think about it. Being a seals mage and trying to focus on combat basically means that you have to constantly make spells beforehand, storing them away, and then carry them with you. The stronger the spell you want to use, the more hardened the objects you have to carry. In order to make your magic effective in combat, you would have to carry around an endless arsenal of things. Strips of paper, stone, weapons, pieces of metal. Not only carry them around, but sort through them actively. It would be like trying to carry a library around with you on your back and pick a specific book whenever you wanted to out of the countless assortment that there is, all while trying to maintain focus on combat with your opponent, having to read their techniques and movements, strategies, and respond accordingly. It's simply not doable. No, I can do it. I want to be a mage. I want to use magic, even in combat. I know it sounds silly if my expertise leans towards this seal stuff, but I'll find a way to do it. If doing things how everybody else does them doesn't work, I'll just come up with something. Ugh, kid, it doesn't work that way. You can't just come up with something. You let me worry about that, Taleon said, looking angrily on his teacher. You're just here to teach me, right? To train me how to protect myself. Well, then teach me what I need to know, and I'll worry about it. And if you're not going to teach me magic, then you might as well leave. I am a mage. Or at least I'm going to be one. Like my mother and my grandmother before me, I will be able to use magic. I have to, Taleon said, beginning to clutch his fists and pursing his lips together somewhat as he continued to stare down at the symbols on the table. You are way too fixated on this. If you keep acting like this, it's going to be the death of you. Why not just give it some time, kid? We don't have to pour all our focus into magic. I can teach you the basics for now, and we can focus our time on mastering your other skills in combat. And then later on you can get better at magic. It's just a better use of our time. Don't be stubborn and get yourself killed. You's wrong, Rico's voice suddenly interjected, putting down the ABC book that she was flipping through to stare angrily at Salis. If Master Taleon says he'd do it, he'd do it. Rico believes Master Taleon. He is mighty. He can achieve whatever he wants. You ask Rico. Rico do whatever you need, Master Taleon. If scary white-haired man no help you, I will. You can trust in Rico. If Master needs help carrying things, then Rico will help. Rico will carry whatever Master needs. Don't encourage him, Salis replied. Sorry, Salis, but it appears that you've been outvoted, Talion's grandmother Vera said, with a smile on her face. Look, he comes from a family of mages. You can't expect him to not wish to use magic, even in combat. All you've done is say that it's difficult, but Taleon doesn't seem to care. He, like myself, has been bewitched by the call of magic. It is not a spell that is easily broken. And as far as things go, I'm with Taleon. So what if his technique isn't exactly meant for combat? Perhaps it's just that no one's thinking about it right. Perhaps what is needed is to find a new angle. Something that would affect allowing Taleon to use Seal's magic more effectively within combat. Since we now know what we're looking for, I suppose I can begin doing some research of my own, whilst you teach Taleon the basics of magic. I can begin searching. I have a few contacts who have connections within the demon world, so I can have them gather some information on Seal's magic. There are some heavy favors owed to me, so I think it's just about time that I collect. You really should have known better, Salis. Telling one raised in a family of mages to ignore magic was never going to go your way, Vera said, cocking her head to the side with a big smile on her face. You know, Taleon, she said, looking at him, when I first encountered you, hearing that my daughter had raised you as her own, to be honest, I was trying my best to care, to feel about you as I might feel about my own naturally born grandchildren, the way I feel about Melody. But to be honest, I was having a hard time of it, Talion. For that, I hope you can forgive your grandmother. But the moment you began to speak of your determination to learn magic, she said, leaning across the table and placing her hand over Talion's, suddenly I felt it. That feeling of pride that one has in one's grandchildren. No, you might not have been born of my blood, but the part of me that loved magic, that passed it to my daughter in hopes that she would pass it to her children as well. That love of magic, that she did pass to you, whether you were born to her or not. That love lives on within you, and I thank you for showing it to me, Talion, for teaching your dear grandmother a lesson. She can be stubborn from time to time, Vera said, smiling a bit as she leaned over, giving Talion a kiss on the forehead. You will be a fine mage, I'm sure of it. And you, don't be so argumentative, she said, looking over to Silas. If he wants to study magic, just let him. Your beliefs don't have to be his. Simply because you believe it's impractical doesn't mean that that is the road that he must travel. Everyone gets to choose their own destiny. A good teacher recognizes this and adjusts accordingly. So tell me, Silas, are you a good teacher or aren't you? Silas sighed deeply. You know, when you explain it like that, you really do make me feel like an asshole. Fine, I'll teach the kid magic. I'll even make sure to make magical training part of our daily routine. I think it's an absolute waste of our time, and that it could be better spent elsewhere. But who am I to argue with a bunch of stubborn mages? If magical training is what you want, magical training you'll have. But I fully expect you to also follow through with your training in your demonic abilities in combat. Adding magic is just going to put extra work on your plate. So don't expect me to lighten the load just for you, he said, passing a stern look in Talion's direction. Yeah, I got it, Talion replied, beginning to smile somewhat. Fine then. Tomorrow, I'll go ahead and introduce Rico, give her her first day of training, and the following day, once Rico's recovered, we can begin with our training in earnest. So, prepare yourself. This is not going to be easy.